Hello, everybody. This is Simon here. Just making this little video of our checkout flight I did in the Cirrus SR20 from Northway Aviation at Payne Field. There was me, the instructor Evan from Northway, and then my son Kellen in the back. And we flew over to Port Angeles to do some work on navigation in the airplane using the autopilot, using the lean assist, using the multifunction display. And here we are just about to turn in over the Coast Guard Air Base, which was a really cool little thing. You'll see to the lower left of the screen, the runway as soon as I bank to the left. This runway on a little spit of land that's like barely bigger than the runway. And we're turning in to enter a 45 to the left downwind to runway 8 at Fairchild International here at Port Angeles. The whole flight was pretty nice visibility-wise. We run into a little bit of rain a couple times, you can see, but the clouds were broken at 5,000 and then overcast at 10,000. We had plenty of ceiling space and plenty of visibility. This is actually my first time flying into Fairchild International over here in Port Angeles, so it was a pretty fun experience for me. Besides just getting the experience using navigation and just getting more comfortable flying the Cirrus. This was the final flight that checked me out to rent it. So the next flight will be me as solo PIC in it. You can start to see some raindrops on the windshield as we're coming up here, getting close to like midfield on the downwind for runway 8. And it's pretty interesting here on this downwind, right when we're descending and pretty close to where, at least where I would turn base in the Cirrus, since I like to fly a little bit bigger pattern in it, since it's faster. There's this radio tower, pretty tall one, right in front off to the left. You can see it clearly. We'll turn towards it, but I mean you're descending at it and then turning into it uh, on the base. We cut the corner a little bit more on the subsequent patterns just because it's sort of intimidatingly in your face. You can see it right in front of me, the red and white striped tower. And here we are turning final in runway 8 here at Port Townsend or Port Angeles. Is a pretty big. They've got a really nice approach lighting system. This first touch and go was pretty decent. I was being a little too relaxed on my rudder. Needed a little more right rudder almost the whole way through. Evan had to get on me to correct it at the end. I was landing a bit sideways, but still touchdown at the 1,000-foot marker. And then after bringing the flaps up and finally going to full throttle, because the Cirrus's throttle is just like always longer of a throw than I think it is. The thing just pops right back off the ground. So really got good power on the takeoff. Even full fuel, and with me, Evan, and Kellen on board, I mean, we're on the heavy side. We're up near max gross weight. So I'm not going to show the full flight because it's sort of boring. So I'm just sort of cut around to the good stuff. Coming up, we're going to cut over to already being on base for the next touch and go at Port Angeles. I did sort of want to include this turn crosswind where you get to fly right over the town, look down on all the houses. I thought that was pretty neat. So here's the next attempt where I was trying to be more conscious of my rudder closer to the ground. And this one was a lot more coordinated, but there's still there's the amount of back pressure you have on the yoke when you're in your transition. You really get to a point and hold it, and then let the plane touch down. And in a Cessna or a Piper, you sort of continue to increase the back pressure as your elevator effectiveness uh, gets worse at slower speeds. But in the Cirrus, if you keep pulling back, if you keep increasing that back pressure slowly, like you would in a Cessna, you just pop back off the ground. So it really more have to get your attitude and just hold it, and let the airspeed bleed off and let the mains touch, and then just uh, really let it burn energy before you keep on applying back pressure. Otherwise, you'll just sort of pop the nose back off, or maybe even pop the mains off slightly. But all in all, that was an improvement. So we hit full power, go around to do another one. I believe this one cuts straight into being on final. So I'm high, which I don't mind in the Cirrus because with full flaps and if you cut the throttle, you drop like a rock. I actually don't like my Evan, the instructor, uh, taught me not to put on full flaps until you're on final instead of base, like what most people do. Because if you lose an engine, you're just not making the runway. It drops way too fast. It's like you're in a slip without being in a slip at all. You can lose altitude, no problem in this thing. But that one was much better touchdown, much better coordination. Everyone was happy with what he saw, so we decided to head on back to Payne Field. And the next clip that we're going to get to is us approaching Payne Field for a no flap landing. I really like this airplane. The SR20 is a really responsive, fast airplane. It's much different than Anything else I've really flown anytime recently? I mean, I guess the closest would be is a Bonanza when I was doing my high performance complex training way back at Big Bend. But even like the Cessna Cardinals I flew, those things were technically high performance and complex, but barely had much more performance than the 172s I was flying. This thing's a high performance complex airplane for cheaters because you got one throttle with the propeller control built into it. Everything's pretty much automated. It's as simple to fly as any standard fixed pitch airplane. You just have to pay attention to a few more things, and it definitely uh, flies different in the pattern. You're faster. It lands a little different. You have a lot much more airspeed to bleed off. You're going 75 knots in short final, and you got to get down to 56 knots. Is where you'd usually run out of energy to fly. So you got to hold your transition in for a while, and it's a sort of a flat transition because if you pull your nose up too much during that area of building up speed, you'll just balloon real bad. This no flap landing is like an even more exaggerated version because it's coming in at around 100 knots, 95 knots, and in this area of transition where I'm burning off my airspeed, we just go way down the runway. You can see I wasn't in too bad of a position, I thought, to end up, near the 1,000-foot markers, and I think we go another 1,000 feet down the runway after that, just sort of floating in ground effect, burning off airspeed. But we requested a long landing, and they gave it to us, so we could have used the whole length if we wanted to. But that's it. We go back to Payne Field. We had a really long taxi back to Northway Aviation, which was pretty boring, so I cut it out, and that was the whole trip. It was pretty fun.